In a world where dreams are bought with borrowed time, I once believed I held the key to prosperity. Little did I know that my aspirations would become shackles, and my ambitions would trap me in a relentless dance with debt. As the numbers on the statements grew, so did the weight on my shoulders, suffocating my hopes and dimming the light of financial freedom. Welcome to the labyrinth of indebted desires, where every step forward leads to a deeper plunge into the abyss of fiscal imprisonment. In today's society, debt has become a pervasive force, ensnaring millions of individuals and families in its suffocating grip. From student loans to credit card debt, the burden of owing money can be overwhelming, trapping people in a cycle of financial stress and limited opportunities. However, there is hope. By understanding the true nature of debt and adopting effective strategies, we can break free from its clutches and reclaim our financial independence. In this 𝗟𝗻𝗀𝗀 documentary, we will delve into the multifaceted world of debt, exploring its causes, consequences, its different types, and most importantly, offering a roadmap to liberate ourselves from its hold. Debt is a financial obligation or liability incurred by an individual, organization, or government entity. It refers to the amount of money borrowed or owed to another party, which must be repaid at a later date, typically with interest. While the concept of debt is commonly associated with financial transactions, its broader definition encompasses various forms and contexts beyond traditional borrowing arrangements. One. Financial debt. This is the most common form of debt and includes loans, mortgages, credit card balances, and other financial instruments where one party borrows money from another with an agreement to repay it over time, usually with interest. 2. Government debt. Also known as public debt or national debt, it refers to the amount of money owed by a government to lenders, both domestic and foreign. Governments often borrow to finance public expenditures, such as infrastructure projects, social welfare programs, and budget deficits. Government debt can be in the form of bonds, treasury bills, or other government securities. 3. Corporate debt. It represents the obligations incurred by corporations or businesses through loans, bonds, or other financial instruments. Companies may borrow money to fund their operations, invest in expansion, acquire assets, or manage cash flow. Corporate debt is often categorized as short-term, example, commercial paper, or long-term, example, corporate bonds. 4. Personal debt. This includes all forms of debt incurred by individuals for personal or household purposes. It encompasses mortgages, personal loans, credit card debt, student loans, auto loans, and other consumer debts. Personal debt levels can have a significant impact on an individual's financial well-being and may affect their ability to save, invest, or meet other financial goals. 5. Sovereign debt. It refers to the debt obligations of a country's central government or sovereign entity. Sovereign debt can be in the form of international bonds, loans from foreign governments or international organizations, or other financial instruments. It represents the borrowing by a nation-state to finance its activities, including infrastructure development, public services, or economic stimulus. 6. Contingent debt. This type of debt is not immediately payable but represents a potential future liability. It includes guarantees, warranties, or other commitments that may require payment if certain events or conditions occur. For example, a company providing a guarantee for a loan taken by another entity would have contingent debt that becomes actual debt if the borrower defaults. 7. And social debt. This concept extends the traditional financial definition of debt to include broader societal obligations. It encompasses responsibilities and debts owed to future generations, the environment, and social justice. Examples of social debt can include the impact of carbon emissions on climate change, unsustainable use of natural resources, or inequalities perpetuated by societal structures. These various forms of debt illustrate that the concept extends beyond simple financial transactions and can encompass complex obligations and responsibilities within different spheres of society. In ancient civilizations, such as Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, there is evidence of debt records dating back thousands of years. These records show that individuals borrowed goods, such as livestock or crops, and promised to repay the lender at a later date. This early form of debt was often based on trust and social relationships within a community. As societies evolved and economies became more complex, the reasons for incurring debt expanded. People would borrow to finance business ventures, purchase goods or property, or even to cover personal expenses. The mechanisms and types of debt varied across different cultures and time periods, but the underlying principle of borrowing and repaying remained consistent. In modern times, debt has become a common aspect of personal and economic life. Individuals may accumulate debt through credit cards, loans, mortgages, or student loans. These forms of debt allow people to make purchases or investments that they cannot afford upfront, with the expectation that they will repay the borrowed funds over time. Ultimately, the origins of debt can be traced back to the earliest human civilizations, where borrowing and lending became essential for economic growth and individual progress. The student loan debt trap. A generation ago, it was almost unheard of for somebody to owe $60,000 in student debt. But today, more than 7 million Americans owe that much. A million borrowers owe more than $200,000. Mitchell writes. At least 100 owe over $1 million. Those struggling to repay those loans fall into every demographic category, from single millennials to older parents and grandparents. They're men and women, white, black, Latino, and Asian. And the cruel irony is, higher education has stopped being the ladder to career and financial success that it once was. If anything, it has become a slide down, writes Mitchell. Many borrowers are actually worse off for having gone to college. The well-paying jobs promised by universities never materialized, Mitchell writes, leading to a wave of defaults on par with those of the 2000s housing crisis. In 2016, a study from George Washington University and the Treasury Department found that most graduates from for-profit colleges earned $600 to $700 a year less than what they'd made before enrolling in college, mostly because of student loans. As of this writing, 8 million borrowers are in default on a student loan, which Mitchell points out isn't that far from the number of people who lost their homes after the housing crash. In recent years, despite a strong pre-pandemic economy, 3,000 people a day defaulted on a student loan. He writes, how did it happen? A big culprit was definitely the universities, which have been raising tuition at an alarming rate. The average tuition in room and board at most four-year private colleges in the United States has risen by nearly 800% since 1980, or more than 5 times the rate of inflation. Today, a 4-year degree at a private college costs nearly $200,000 on average. Meanwhile, a public college costs half that for in-state students but almost as much for those from out of state. At the University of Alabama, for instance, out-of-state students pay $180,000 for a 4-year education, and even after grants and scholarships are factored in. Many Alabama students and their parents take on tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and in some cases more than $100,000. Mitchell writes. But these ridiculous tuition fees didn't come out of nowhere. The problem started when the federal government gave families a blank check to allow students to attend the school of their choice, regardless of its cost. The more Americans borrowed, the more colleges raised tuition. Colleges have abused their tremendous pricing power. Mitchell writes. Nowadays, completing a college degree often means being strapped down with huge loans and a large interest rate that follows you through adulthood. The trap of car payments and mortgages refers to the potential pitfalls and long-term financial burdens associated with these types of loans. While car payments and mortgages are common forms of financing for purchasing vehicles and homes, they can become traps if not managed carefully. Car payments and mortgages are forms of debt that require regular monthly payments over an extended period. These payments can add up and consume a significant portion of your income, limiting your ability to save and invest for other financial goals. Loans typically come with interest charges, which can significantly increase the total amount you pay over the life of the loan. The longer the loan term, the more interest you'll end up paying. This can add up to a substantial sum of money, making it harder to achieve financial freedom. Car loans often have terms ranging from 3 to 7 years, while mortgage loans can stretch over 15 to 30 years. These long-term commitments lock you into monthly payments for an extended period, potentially limiting your financial flexibility and making it challenging to adapt to changing circumstances. Taking on large car payments or mortgages can stretch your finances thin, leaving little room for emergencies or unexpected expenses. It's crucial to consider the potential risks and ensure you have a comfortable financial cushion to handle unforeseen circumstances. Three of the most common causes of debt in America include mortgage debt. the most common cause of debt in the US is from home mortgages. Because a house is typically the most expensive thing a person will ever purchase, this is not surprising. In 2016, the national average mortgage debt was close to $200,000. A debt that large can be hard to overcome, even in the best circumstances. Credit card debt. The second most common type of debt in the US is from credit cards. A large and growing percentage of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and when something unexpected comes up, such as medical bills or major repairs, credit cards are many people's only safety net. Car debt. While car longevity is increasing steadily, cars remain a top monthly expense in most people's lives. Even without the monthly expense just to use the car, repairs and maintenance add up quickly. Be sure to stick until the end of the video, as a more comprehensive list on the 10 most common causes of debt will be attached in the end screen of this video. Debt can be likened to a form of modern slavery in certain circumstances due to the power dynamics and oppressive conditions it can create. These are some ways in which debt can be classified as modern slavery. Exploitative interest rates. Lenders, particularly predatory ones, can charge exorbitant interest rates on loans, making it difficult for borrowers to repay their debts. This can lead to a cycle of perpetual debt where individuals struggle to make ends meet, and a significant portion of their income goes towards paying off interest rather than meeting basic needs. Limited options and coercion. In some cases, individuals may be coerced into taking on debt due to limited options or desperate circumstances. They may be forced to accept unfavorable loan terms, often with little understanding of the long-term consequences. This lack of choice and coercion can resemble elements of servitude and control. Bondage and loss of freedom. The burden of debt can restrict an individual's freedom and choices. Debtors may feel compelled to work in unfavorable conditions or take on multiple jobs simply to make payments, which limits their ability to pursue alternative opportunities or improve their circumstances. This loss of freedom and bondage to debt resembles certain aspects of slavery. Intergenerational impact. Debt can extend beyond an individual and affect future generations, trapping families in a cycle of debt and limited opportunities. This intergenerational impact can perpetuate socioeconomic disparities and hinder upward mobility, replicating some of the lasting consequences of historical slavery. As well as psychological and emotional impact, debt can have severe psychological and emotional effects on individuals, creating stress, anxiety, and a sense of hopelessness. The constant pressure to repay debt can lead to mental health issues and a sense of being trapped, mirroring some of the psychological effects of slavery. Social media has turned all of our lives into a comparison-fueled hellscape of one-upmanship. Back in the day, we only had to compare ourselves to our next-door neighbors, or maybe our siblings. Now, thanks to the beauty of connectivity, we have access to the shiny, curated lives of everyone we have ever known. And everyone is living their best lives. All the time. Dinners at the best restaurants in the city, cocktails on tropical beaches, weddings in idyllic country manors with fireworks, live doves and a unicorn. Keeping up can be exhausting and expensive. In fact, lots of people are falling into financial difficulties in their attempts to maintain a particular lifestyle for their online personas, and it really is getting out of hand. Last year, one American woman confessed that she had got herself into $10,000 of debt trying to become Instagram famous. An anonymous Brit created a whole blog dedicated to following her journey of clearing debts of £25,000. Racked up on expensive interior designs for her perfect Instagram posts. But it's happening on a micro level too. Loads of us are pushing our financial boundaries, taking out payday loans and maxing out our credit cards, all to save face for the gram, and it points to a deeper problem. It's an easy trap to fall into. Social media can become a financial problem when it turns into a spending competition, and users feel the pressure to keep up with others' extravagant lifestyles, says 𝗟𝗿𝗍𝗁, personal finance expert at 𝗧money.co.uk. Social media makes living a vibrant, balanced, exciting life look effortless. The perfect wedding appears without capturing the fights and tantrums that it took to get down the aisle. Pictures of luxury trips scroll by without comments on the credit cards being maxed out every day to fund the trip. Work promotions are announced minus the details of it taking 6 less than ideal temp jobs before arriving at the desired career path. Ultimately, our social media feeds can only capture a snapshot, literally. But this is enough for our self-judgment and criticism to cling to in order to bring on feelings of being left behind and not making the most of life. Good debt and bad debt are terms used to differentiate between types of debt based on their potential benefits and drawbacks. Here's a general overview. Good debt. Good debt refers to borrowing money for investments or purchases that have the potential to generate long-term financial benefits. It is typically associated with investments in assets that appreciate in value, provide income, or have the potential to enhance your financial position. Here are some examples. Education loans. Taking out student loans to fund education can be considered good debt because it can lead to better job prospects and higher earning potential. Mortgage loans. Borrowing to purchase a home is generally considered good debt, as it provides a place to live and can appreciate in value over time. Business loans. Borrowing money to start or expand a business can be beneficial if the business generates profits and grows over time. The key characteristic of good debt is that it has the potential to increase your net worth or future earning capacity. Bad debt. Bad debt refers to borrowing money for purchases that do not provide long-term financial benefits or have the potential to negatively impact your financial health. It typically involves borrowing for consumable or depreciating assets. Some examples of bad debt include credit card debt. Using credit cards to finance lifestyle expenses without the ability to pay off the balance in full can lead to high interest charges and financial strain. Payday loans. These short-term loans often come with extremely high interest rates, making them expensive and difficult to pay off. Car loans for luxury vehicles. Taking out a loan for a luxury car that quickly depreciates in value can be considered bad debt since it does not contribute to your long-term financial well-being. The 3 best ways to swiftly pay off your debt are to 1. Significantly increase your income. Earning more money is another strategy that can help pay down debt faster, although this step is often easier said than done. You may not be able to pick up more hours at work, or a raise may not be in the cards, though given recent inflationary trends, this is the year to ask for one. But in many cases, the best way to earn more income involves picking up other types of work. Perhaps you can work on a side gig in your spare time, become a part-time consultant in your field, or apply for a second job on top of the one you have. 2. Create a debt snowball. If you're juggling multiple credit cards that you owe money on and feeling overwhelmed, one way to manage them all is to consider creating a debt snowball. With this debt repayment method, you'll make the minimum payments on all your largest debts, then funnel any extra money you have toward your smallest debt each month. As the smallest debt gets paid off over time, the money that was going toward that debt is snowballed into paying off the next smallest debt, and so on. 3. Pay more than the minimum payment. If you have a bunch of credit cards and you're only making the minimum payment on them, it'll take decades for you to get out of debt. This is especially true if you have a high APR on your credit card, and if you're still using your cards for purchases while you're carrying debt, it's almost guaranteed that you'll never catch up. If you want to know of more effective ways in which you can swiftly pay off your debt, we have released a more comprehensive list on the 10 best ways to swiftly pay off your debt. We will attach that video in the end screen of this video.
Everyone wants to feel like a king, and that's exactly what RM Kings provides. Our collection features handcrafted RM Kings pendants made with the finest precious and standard metals such as gold, silver, and brass, with overall attention to detail. From chains to earrings to bracelets, our pieces are designed to enhance your aura and make you feel like exactly that, a king. So why wait? Treat yourself to a piece of jewelry that's as superlative and unique as you are. Shop our RM Kings collection today and join the army of kings who have already discovered their throne. Become a modern Egyptian king, one piece at a time.